in a stroke of good luck, we find Australia standing up to the Chinese government. This is something which has been done by Canada, US, UK, in a combination of a fight against the human rights. But I think with the new law that Australia is putting in place, it targets specific people, which is right, because you can't just target a whole country just because a couple of people are doing stuff that you don't like. But it's not just about that. A while back there was a family member of Xi Jinping, the leader of the Communist Party, cousin or something of his, who was basically thrown out of Australia because of the illegal and corrupt business practices that he had, as well as a bunch of land that they were buying up within Australia. And the Australians obviously have a lot of concerns about the Chinese owning half of Australia, which, you know, I would have some thoughts around that if I was Australian. Foreign officials and corrupt businesses, people targeted under changes to Australian sanctions power. Proposed amendments allow governments to sanction individuals for gross human rights violations or serious corruption. Now, I think that the biggest thing there should be the fact that corruption is popping up there, because that is where the problematic issues are at the moment. Okay, let's read. Foreign government officials could face sanctions for gross human rights violations, while corrupt people could be banned from travel to Australia and have their assets and bank accounts frozen. Now, this is something they should have done a long time, specific to the Chinese government and the officials that are linked to the Chinese Communist Party. New sanction powers announced by the Morrison government on Thursday and expected to be presented to Parliament by the end of the year will allow Australia to target perpetrators of egregious acts of international concerns. Egregious. Excuse the fact that I cannot pronounce big words like that. This is my second language. It's like laughing at a Chinese person who can't speak proper English. You know, it's similar to that. Powers are likely to spark calls from colloquial backbenchers for sanctions against Chinese officials over human rights abuses in Xinjiang. The government's planned amendments will also allow Australia to
sanction individuals and entities for serious corruption, pro-life proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, or miscellaneous cybersecurity activities. Okay, so they're making it faster to action against a couple of things here. I think the rest is just, cream over the cake type of thing. Cybersecurity activities as well as corruption within their country. That is the two items I think this is about, because with the old laws they had to physically add countries to a list of banned countries. So it was country specific, whereas now it could be a group, it could be individual. So this is what this law does and what this law changes. The Morrison government has faced growing calls from across the political spectrum to introduce so-called Magnitsky-like style legislation to bring into line with its other major allies and partners. The plans will expand the reach of Australia's existing and autonomous sanctions laws, which are based on country-specific designation and allow the government to act more quickly. Okay, there they say it specifically. So it's very important to understand that this was country-specific. So firstly, the courts had to add this country where this person or individual or company or even government was in, and that had to then be added to that list, and only then they could put in sanctions. Those pushing reform see the existing system as slow and unwittingly, because a country must first be designated before individuals can be added to the sanction list, and that process can take several months. In March, when the UK, US, EU and Canada announced coordinated sanctions against Chinese officials over human rights abuses against Uyghur Muslims and in Xinjiang, the move was welcomed but not followed by Australia and New Zealand. Why? Because a lot of the exports and imports go to China. So I take my hat off for Australia, who is they've been tough on China, to be dead honest. Tougher than the rest of the world, I think, in some instances, and they are a very close ally for imports and exports. So this is not a small move for China, for Australia to make against China. If the Morrison government had wanted to join the action, it would have needed to trigger a month-long process, because China was not and is not designated under Australia's existing country-specific regime. The Foreign Affairs Minister Maurice Payne said the new measures could give Australia the opportunity to impose targeted financial sanctions and travel bans against individuals and entities determined to be involved in such sanctionable conduct wherever it occurs. So this is some very good news, especially for people who are concerned. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say this is an anti-Chinese legislation that they're bringing in, but it is anti-corruption. It is human rights violations is part of it, but I don't think it's the real thing, the real deal. I think it's part of a bigger and broader spectrum of stopping corruption in Australia by officials from the Chinese government, which has been proven to be going on, and the freezing of land, which they're procuring at a hell of a speed. It seems like China really owns Africa, most of Africa, and they're now going off to Australia, so then they'll probably be next. New Zealand's probably already in the bag. That hopefully this helps a little bit with controlling that. Thanks guys for listening. Remember, go check out Ground News, where you can see check out Ground News, where you can get an objective news bias rating, and you can get multiple, go and have a look at multiple reports and newspaper articles about the same topic. They do really good work, and I cannot help but promote them, even though there's nothing in it for me. I think I do have a link somewhere where I get 1 month for free, because I do actually have the paid version of this, because it's worth my while. And out, see you later.